Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Good morning.
Good
How are you
morning,
doing?
Joe KARP. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How you doing?
We may have some moaning and groaning from Bill because I'm sitting in his room because I always like to watch over him. But you know, Joe, now, and I don't really want to talk politics, but I got to tell you something. Your article was very interesting. You were being very, very good about not talking about, one person versus another. But I think everyone is scared to death about what's going to happen with Medicare and all the governmental issues.
I think that's realistic. I mean, the Republicans have been strong advocates that people should take care of themselves, that Medicare costs us too much money, Medicaid is wasteful, and that these programs have to be cut back. They want to eliminate the Affordable Care Act, although I heard an interesting thing the other day. Somebody said, just get rid of Obamacare and leave us the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
just like the people who said when the government was talking about it, keep the government out of my Medicare.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it.
So it's of concern because middle-class people, and you know full well as you're sitting in the midst of your own family issues, are petrified as to what can happen because of one serious health issue for anybody. And the Republicans have indicated that they have been desirous of reducing benefits and eliminating benefits. And people have to recognize that and start to do their own preparation. Just like if they said we were going to eliminate the fire departments, you would probably get all better pressure hoses outside your home, and you'd have fire extinguishers throughout your home. You have to do what you have to do. If the powers that be won't do what people thought they would or should do. So for a period of time, I think there's a great deal of concern. The Affordable Care Act and
Joe, excuse me, and
yep.
This wasn't something in the future, like 5 years from now, this is what's going to happen. This is now, right?
That's what they're talking about doing, and and one of the things that had been argued with regard to some of the things are down the future. So, for example, Medicare, they're talking about increasing the age for eligibility for people under the age of 45. They're going to raise it to 67 or 68 so that those people at least have a chance to prepare for it. With regard to people getting it or people over a certain age, they recognize that they can't do it. They can't say to somebody who's 60 years old, I know you were supposed to get Medicare at 65 and Social Security at 66, but tough luck, we're changing it. I don't expect that. That's not what they're saying they're going to do. But people have to plan and look at it. And one of the things, as you know, we address all the time is long-term care costs. Some of the things that we can do or will allow people to be eligible for Medicaid for long-term care probably will change. Now, whether there'll be a swing back after there's the swing one way to the right, whether after a period of time people don't think that's the way the government should run and they elect different people in, then it can change back. But one has to be prepared and braced for the fact that it may not be there. For example, there was a time in some states where you could get 24-hour home care for Medicaid, which is clearly both better for the patient, better for the family, and cheaper for the government if they do that. But in Florida right now, if you have home care Medicaid, if you qualify, first of all, you have to qualify. Second of all, there's a long wait list, so you could be on that list a long period of time before you get anything. And then you'll get 4 hours a day of care.
Amazing.
Well, for most people, that's inadequate. If you have an 80-year-old person taking care of their 83-year-old spouse, the likelihood that they can provide the other 20 hours of care themselves, helping their spouse get to the bathroom, helping the spouse dress or undress one part of the day or the other, is very limited. So people have to just prepare for it, save for it, get long-term insurance, or if they're not in the position to do that now because they've reached that point in life where their savings ability has declined, they're going to have to look at starting to do Medicaid planning before the rules change, even if it's not for home care, for nursing home care, because as you well know, the cost of long-term care in a semi-private room in a nursing home in Florida is anywhere from, in Palm Beach County, runs anywhere from $8,000 a month to $12,000, $13,000 a month.
I just fell off my chair.
Excuse me?
I just fell off my chair.
That's semi-private rooms. When I first started doing this, and just so we're clear, the state concedes that when I started doing Medicaid 20 years ago, there has been always an exemption for gifting. Without going into the whole rule, when I started doing this in 1994, the state declared that the average cost of nursing home care in this state was $3,300 a month. So people would buy long-term insurance, and they'd buy $100 a day coverage, because that pretty well took care of them with their Social Security and their savings. They were okay. And that was a number the state allowed us to use as an exemption for Medicaid gifting purposes without going into detail. That number now, the state concedes. The state concedes this, so they always lowball the numbers, is over $8,600 a month.
Oh, my God.
So the state's going to say, whether you're in Ocala or Boca, I mean, they average out the numbers, and what do we know? That Ocala is cheaper than Boca, don't we think so? $8,600 is the average cost of nursing home care in this state in a semi-private room. And that is just the room. And I know you've had conversations about this, but I tell my clients the reason for asset protection and savings is not just to get Medicaid to pick up the tab, which is important. It's not just to provide the community spouse with some economic security and peace of mind. It's certainly not to leave the children an inheritance. That's not what it's about. The other thing that is forgotten is the ability to provide enhanced care for the person in the nursing home. And that enhanced care for people in long-term care means that somebody can be a private duty attendant that's hired with preserved money to make sure that person gets some special attention, to make sure, because we know what happens, and this is not to denigrate the nursing home business. They're stuck with what they can charge and what services they must provide. The number of clients who have said to me, my husband's in the nursing home. We're talking about past rehab, and they keep saying, he has no appetite. He doesn't eat breakfast or lunch. And it's because he really can't feed himself.
That's right.
And he doesn't get the encouragement. So
right.
Using money to have a private duty attendant there instead of the spouse to help feed breakfast, help make sure he gets or she gets fed, to make sure they eat their lunch. So many people are put on Insure and other dietary supplements because they can't eat the way I do, which is wolf down the meal in 14 seconds.
Right,
they
unfortunately.
They are very slow to eat. They have to chew slowly. Their digestive system and swallowing system doesn't work as well.
That's right.
So having those monies preserved can enhance the quality of care for the person. And as you well know while you're sitting in Bill's room, that if people are not there to be your advocate and be there to assist you and to do the things to help and facilitate enhanced quality of care, the staffing at a nursing home is inadequate to meet their needs. They have rules about how many people they must have per patient. And they just have so many CNAs to go around or so many nurses to go around. And if you have 8 people at a table and one person helping them in the facility, or if they're in a nursing home but can still make it out of their room, they're not in rehab, one person cannot feed 8 of them. So you'll end up with many of them not eating because they'll say they're okay or they're sitting there. And then slowly but surely you see the bottles of Ensure build up. So planning for this to make sure your loved one has high quality of care, that the spouse in the community doesn't go broke, that the family can enhance the quality of care of the person who needs it, is so critical. And with the changes that we can anticipate, because these are, unlike the election where most people did not expect the result, that result that we didn't expect will bring a result that we do expect. We certainly believe there's going to be a diminution of benefits for the poor, the infirm, and the elderly, because that's what they said they wanted. There'll be tax cuts. If you happen to be an owner of, 1 million shares of Halliburton or Exxon, you're going to do okay. And if you're in a high-income bracket, your taxes will be reduced. But the money that the government doesn't receive has got to come from somewhere. I mean,
you don't want to get me started because this is not a political show, and I'm not going to. But tell you what I would like to do. I would like to tell everybody about your seminars because of all times, I think your seminars are so critical. They're so important, and I'm going to do that. And then when I come back, I want you to ask you the question of when you first started as a young lawyer, even though you were in a different specialty, when you got into this, would you ever have imagined that all that's been turned into this, where you were just doing documents, has now become where you're a psychologist and everything else? So you think about that, and let me just tell everybody. Joe KARP has offered free senior survival workshops for probably 20 years, and they are fantastic seminars. People who go there learn so much. They go from usually 1:30 to 4, and I'm going to tell you what's coming up. So get your pencils out. You'll want to call. You don't actually have to make reservations. You can just go. But please do go. Get it on your calendar, and it's a very important seminar. The first one coming up is Wednesday, January the 18th. That's right, Wednesday, January the 18th, and you know what that is. This week it's coming up. Okay, 1:30 to 4. 1:30 to 4, and it's in Palm Beach Gardens at the Marriott Hotel. You just go to the hotel, and there'll be a sign, and you'll go into the room. It's free. It's just spectacular. I think that you'll be so thrilled that you listened to this show and that you went. Now, if you are located in further south in Palm Beach County, write down Thursday, January the 19th. That's Thursday, January the 19th, from 1:30 to 4, 1:30 to 4, and that's over there in Boynton Beach at the Courtyard by Marriott. These are beautiful hotels. The rooms are very nice. Be prepared. Joe always says, bring a sweater, but be prepared to stay for the whole thing. You can't believe that a talented lawyer, an experienced lawyer like Joe KARP, is offering all that time to people in the community. So please, now if you just absolutely want to call for more information, The number is 1-800-893-9911. And if you want, you should go on his website. His website's just glorious. Lots of information. If you can't make the January, you'll be able to see what's coming up in February. But it's KARPlaw.com, KARPLAW.com. Okay, Joe, now why don't you answer that question?
I just want to add one thing to that.
Oh.
This month, Jenny Bernstein, who's also a board-certified elder law attorney, will be doing the Boynton Beach seminar since we could not get our hotel in Port St. Lucie that week. So she's giving me a break. She'll be doing that one on Thursday. And she's been doing my seminars. Now, Jenny's with me 12 years, and she's a board-certified elder law attorney. We are now up, as of Monday morning, to 7 attorneys doing this in our firm. You remember me when, Anita?
I do remember you when we had our breakfast on Saturday morning, and I learned so much from you, and I tried to do a lot of things you said, but you know, when it comes down to a crunch, as we are in here now, you really have to have a good attorney. We've used Joe KARP. Our family's used Joe KARP. In fact, you know the book. I just have to tell you this, and I'm sure you know. The book we featured for Book of the Month was thanks to you. You must have, or he heard about you, or you heard about him and sent it to me. I don't know. The Book of the Month is by the Wrights, W-R-I-G-H-T.
Oh, yes.
Suddenly
yes,
Alone.
They're okay. I didn't realize they are. They're clients of mine who did the book, who gave me kudos for the ideas and stuff all about.
Oh yes, what
stuff.
A great book! Oh my goodness, if people are getting their copy of Boomer Times, buy that book. It is fabulous. And the reason I knew there was something that you were associated, because in it, your name's in one of the documents.
Yep, they listed me as the attorney.
I know.
There's a place to list who to call up for stuff, but they also gave me a secondary endorsement. What I'm going to say to people is the other thing, if you come to our workshops, we'll offer you a free consultation if we think we can help you. And we'll tell you who we can't help if you try when you're making the appointment. But it gives people a good opportunity. And I gave my office, we had our annual meeting this year, and I said, do your New Year's resolutions. But if you stop doing what you said you would do, look at it again 2 weeks from now and do them again. Start all over. If you were going to lose weight and then you went to a party and pigged out, doesn't say, I'm not going to lose any more weight this year. Go back on it. Many of you have said, I'm going to get my affairs in order. I'm going to take care of things. And we try to help people do that. And leading up to the psychologist thing, it's also practical advice we try to give people. We're now cleaning up after an estate where somebody has passed away, and the husband's in the nursing home and the wife died, and I'm handling everything because there's no family. They had tax returns since 1946 that they had saved. Okay? I have to go through that stuff they could have thrown away. People should go through what they don't need, clean it up. Your kids don't want to clean up your messes. If you've got books in the bookshelf that nobody looks at, donate it to a library. Don't leave that burden on your kids. If you try to simplify your life, don't have 12 accounts. Know where your legal documents are and what they mean. And that's one of the things we stress on our clients, is you have to understand what to do with the paper, not just bury it. So we try to give it. Now, when I first became a lawyer, Anita, in answer to your question, I became an assistant district attorney in the Bronx. So I didn't know I was going to be a psychologist, but I knew that I had to use psychology in what I did even then, because you had to figure out what would work with a jury, and you're dealing with the truth. Particularly as an assistant DA, the prosecutor should not try to hide the truth. But you have to learn to emphasize what's most important. So if somebody denies they were if the defendant denied that they were at the scene of the crime, stress that you have 8 eyewitnesses saying they were at the scene of the crime, and why would they lie? Don't go into the minutia about the crime itself if that's already there. Understand what's going to tick with people. Understand where people are going to relate. So as a lawyer, if you're doing anything that involves people, whether they're your clients or the people who are evaluating what to do, you have to use psychology. You have to have an understanding of people. So I didn't know that that's what I would be doing. That wasn't conscious. I didn't say, okay, I've got to play psychologist. But when you were picking a jury, if you had a policeman on trial as the defendant, you knew that if prospective jurors were siblings of policemen, psychologically they would not be inclined to convict. So you start to do those evaluations. Now, with regard to the stuff we do now, with regard to estate planning and elder law issues, you're dealing with psychology as well. You're dealing with on a number of levels. One is trying to make sure, quote, you do no harm. It's the Hippocratic Oath for doctors passed on to lawyers. If you have somebody who's got $100,000 and they want to leave 60% to their daughter and 40% to their son because he's worth far more and she could use it more, you start to talk about how that will impact on the feeling. Does your son have a good relationship with your daughter? Yes. If your daughter was in a period of strife, economic or otherwise, would your son be there for her? Yes. Do you think your son might resent the fact that you treated your daughter more economically favorably? Well, I'm not sure, but I know his wife would. Well, do you think if you gave her $10,000 more than she would have gotten, she'll get 60 instead of 50? Do you think your son and his wife may not be there for your daughter when she needs them? You know, I never thought about that.
You always ask the right questions, Joe. You really do.
So you start to analyze that. Who should be in charge of your financial affairs? There's two issues. There's family politics and dynamics, and also who is responsible. And they'll say, oh, my daughter can't be in charge because she's a spendthrift. I said, well, would she be a spendthrift with your money? Well, no. Well, maybe she is appropriate, and maybe she'll even learn something about managing money if she has to be responsible for you. And then you find out that really the daughter's not a spendthrift. She's like millions of Americans. Life is expensive, and she doesn't have enough money and income. She's not driving a BMW. She's driving a 7-year-old Toyota Camry. She's just, she spoils her kids a little. Everybody does. But she's not spoiling them a lot. Her kids aren't driving fancy cars. So you start to deal with that. And you talk about what's going to go on. And you talk about preservation of assets. Should you do Medicaid planning? Is this something you're going to want? Can you be realistic that this can occur? Or as I met with a gentleman and his son yesterday, and he was reluctant. He had to realize that if he does not do Medicaid for his wife, his kids are going to be his caregiver. He's falling apart.
Well,
Anita,
Joe,
we got our 1-minute warning?
Yeah, we did. And I hope people will go to your seminar. I mean, please, everybody. You have no idea. This is a gift of all gifts for 2017. Just remember, please, you can go to the KARPlaw.com, get all the information, KARPLEW.com. Thank you, Joe, so much. And I will be talking to you personally.
Take care of yourself while you're taking care of Bill.
I will. Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Joe.